Alright, hi guys, Torbs here, and in this video I'll explain why intermittent fasting probably is the simplest nutrition habit for fat loss after testing it myself for almost 2 years. At the end of this video, I'll answer the 7 most common questions on intermittent fasting, so you know if it makes sense to try it for yourself. So what is actually intermittent fasting? Well, we millennials have been quite creative by turning skipping breakfast into intermittent fasting. You probably heard the term, but you dismissed it as just another hipster diet. But it is, in fact, not just for hipsters and not even a diet. First of all, fasting has been around for centuries, but in the mid-2000s, the Swedish nutritionist and personal trainer Martin Burkan popularized the term intermittent fasting with his 16-8 protocol, also known as lean gains. Here, you only eat during an 8-hour time window before fasting for 16 hours. If you sleep for 8 hours, then you effectively just fast for the remaining 8 hours. A common eating window is between 12 and 8. However, the timing is totally up to you as long as you constrain it to just 8 hours. And bear in mind, this is not a diet, it's an eating pattern. You see, the reason why most diets fail isn't because of eating the wrong foods, it's because we don't actually follow the diet long term. And since intermittent fasting requires very little behavior change, it's one of the simplest strategies for both getting and staying lean long term. As the author James Clear puts it, it falls into a category of being simple enough that you will actually do it, but meaningful enough that it actually makes a difference. Intermittent fasting does not change what you eat, it simply changes when you eat. Thereby, it's actually not a diet, it's an eating pattern. And when you restrict the number of meals you eat, you would in isolation also eat less unless you equally compensate the size of your other meals. So here's an illustration of my personal intermittent fasting eating and fasting schedule. Note the word breakfast simply refers to whatever meal that breaks your fast, either that's eaten at 7 or 12. And since I love breakfast type of food, I still eat them just around lunchtime, read at 12. So I start my day at the home office with protein oatmeal. Here I mix oats, fruits, nuts and cottage cheese for extra texture and protein. The second meal is usually a salad with some lean protein and vegetables. Or I have eggs and beans with some veggies on the side. Then I usually have my workout around 5:30 as I feel I have most strength later in the day. Note this is individual, of course. Finally, I have dinner around 7 where I have 1 portion of protein, again, some good carbs and veggies. I usually always mix up this meal to keep my life fun. Yes, my life is very exciting these days. Finally, I make sure that I season and spice my meals. You know, you can eat incredibly tasty and healthy if you have some experience with cooking. And if this is your first encounter with intermittent fasting, I know what you're thinking. It would be impossible to not eat before lunchtime. I would be starving. And I have been there. I used to crave food as soon as I woke up. Not because I was genetically mounted that way, but simply because that was what my body was used to. Usually I would always have a quick protein smoothie within 15 minutes of waking up before rushing off to conquer the day. As a consequence, my body expected food immediately after waking up. But after getting accustomed to intermittent fasting, the feeling of hunger, strangely enough, does not occur until noon. Changing my body's expectations only took a couple of days. It is actually remarkably easy to implement intermittent fasting once you get over the idea that you need to eat as soon as you wake up. Here's an illustration of what intermittent fasting feels like. At day 1, you think you are going to die. At 4, you realize you didn't die. You're alive and fine. So with that being said, let me answer the 7 most common questions of intermittent fasting. Question 1. What about kickstarting your metabolism? Well, unless your scooter is called metabolism, you don't have to kickstart anything. It's probably true that breakfast used to be the most important meal, but when it comes to the actual need of calories before lunchtime, read at noon, history has changed. Breakfast was considered the most important meal of the day when hard physical labor was the norm in most occupations. Now, due to how little physically demanding modern day labor has become, that logic no longer applies. It is also commonly believed that you need breakfast to kickstart your metabolism. Well, it's true that your metabolism will increase, not start, during periods of digestion. However, the peak is relative to the number of calories eaten. Thereby, your metabolism during 24 hours is affected by how many calories you eat, not when. Question 2. Will intermittent fasting automatically result in fat loss? Well, fasting has no magic weight loss properties other than helping you in a calorie deficit. Meaning, even though you implement fasting but still eat too many calories, you won't lose weight. Question 3. What about morning or night workouts? So when it comes to intermittent fasting, most people prefer exercising right before their first meal, for example at 11 o'clock, or before dinner, for example around 5:30, because if not, you will go for a long period of time without eating. If you prefer exercising in the morning, you can have a small protein shake right after your first workout if you really need it. But then you are technically not fasting unless you end your eating window with an early dinner at, for example, 4. Question 4. Who should be careful with intermittent fasting? Well, if you are a healthy individual, fasting is perfectly safe. With that being said, fasting may not be suitable for everyone. You should avoid intermittent fasting if you are pregnant, have low blood sugar, have a history of disordered eating. So as always, check with your doctor before starting any new diet or exercise program. Plus, since intermittent fasting is primarily used for weight loss, people who struggle with gaining weight might consider to add more meals, not limiting them. Question 5. Are there any other benefits than fat loss? Well, yes, fat loss is not the only benefit of fasting. Besides centuries of documented health benefits such as prevention of cardiovascular disease and cancer, it makes your day simpler and less stressful. When I wake up, I don't think about breakfast. I just grab a glass of water and my precious black coffee before I start my day. In fact, I actually don't mind cooking, so eating 5 meals a day was never a hassle for me. However, now I eat 2 meals less per day, which also means less planning, less cooking, and more time for other things. Question 6. Can I drink during the fast? Yes. Any calorie-free beverage are fine, that is coffee, water, diet drinks, etc. If you want to add a splash of milk into your coffee, go for it. Just remember, a splash. Question number 7. Will fasting make me lose muscle? Well, no. As long as you're not going all out and fasting for an entire week while doing 2 hours of cardio each day, muscle loss is not going to be an issue. So to summarize, intermittent fasting is probably one of the simplest ways of managing your nutrition and weight. Fewer meals would in isolation lead to fewer calories consumed. Your body quickly gets accustomed to your new eating pattern, so you might give it a shot yourself. Also, if you want to put this into a step-by-step program, you can head over to my website torptraining.com and join my monthly challenge called the Lean Body Autopilot. It starts every month, and here I will help you and other like-minded get lean and strong for life with new habits, with me as your coach and mentor holding you accountable. So claim your spot in the next group before it's full. Also, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and give this video a thumbs up. Talk to you in the next video. Torps.